thank you for joining us for part one of the video series, Sources of Support, Exploring Resources for Postpartum Depression. Today, we're highlighting maternal mental health professionals who are important supporters for women experiencing symptoms of PPD. The speakers joining me are individuals who support the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline, and they do amazing work supporting women and families before, during, and after pregnancy. Dr. Ellen Kolomeyer is a licensed clinical psychologist certified in perinatal mental health. Due to her own postpartum experience, she pursued additional coursework in this area. She wanted to help women connect with resources that she didn't know existed when she needed them. We also welcome Nicole Barnett, a licensed clinical social worker certified in perinatal mental health. As a postpartum depression survivor, Nicole has engaged in maternal mental health education and advocacy for over 15 years. She is passionate about raising awareness, particularly in faith spaces and communities of color. Both Nicole and Ellen support the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline. Ellen, I'd like to start with you. If you can tell us more about the hotline, how it works, and who it's for.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline officially launched on Mother's Day, May 8th in 2022. And since then, we've been providing 24/7 free confidential emotional support, resources, and referrals before, during, and after pregnancy. Our help seekers can include anyone who's pregnant, postpartum, and their loved ones and their support people during their pregnancy and postpartum period. And I think the most important thing that we love to say and keep in mind on the hotline is that it is a non-judgmental space, which I think when we are talking about mental health in pregnancy and postpartum is probably the most important thing to get the support that you need.
Nicole, I'd like to turn to you now. You are actually on the phone with individuals calling into the hotline. I know one of the goals is to reach as many people as possible in various communities. Tell us about the resources in other languages.
Yes, absolutely. We have bilingual counselors that serve on the hotline that speak both English and Spanish. So whether you call or text in English or Spanish, you can make that an option to choose from. But we are also very fortunate to have a translation service that allows us to be able to communicate in over 60 languages. And so no matter what language is spoken, we encourage calling in. And I would say, even in addition to the languages, not only are we professionally trained in maternal mental health as counselors, but we also are culturally informed as well as trauma informed, which is just a fancy way of saying wherever a help seeker is, whomever calls in, we're going to meet them exactly where they are, no judgment, as Ellen just said, and with compassion, and listen to their particular situation and meet them exactly where they are.
That is such an important piece of this, and thank you for sharing that. I know this is also very personal for you because you have shared that you are a survivor of postpartum depression. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how that has led you to work on the hotline?
Absolutely. I experienced postpartum depression after the birth of my third child, which was over 18 years ago now. And it was absolutely the worst experience of my life as a mother, very challenging time. But as part of my recovery from that, I was part of a support group that was so helpful to me. And that support group, I found out later, was sponsored by a group called Postpartum Support International. They are a nonprofit agency that provides awareness and education, just everything related to maternal mental health. And as I started speaking about postpartum depression, providing education in the communities in my area, I would refer to Postpartum Support International, to their resources, to their support groups. Well, when PSI made it known that this hotline was going to be made available and that they were looking for counselors to staff it, it was like a dream come true for me, because it now gave me the opportunity to combine not only my professional background as a licensed clinical social worker, but my passion for assisting moms and families who had gone through situations similar to mine. So every day I get to help women just like me. And in many ways, I can relate to exactly how they're feeling. And it brings so much satisfaction to be able to help someone in that way.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know that, Ellen, you have a similar background in that your personal experience led you to pursue more work in this area and also to the hotline. So, how has your background impacted your work on the hotline?
I think looking back in hindsight on my own pregnancy and postpartum experience, there's just so many things now that I wish I knew then. And to me, it's one of those things you just don't know what you don't know. You can be an expert in these different topics, but you don't know what you don't know until you're in it. And you need to know. In general, I think in this world, there's so much prep for baby, from birth plans to nurseries to all the things that we think we need to make babies happy and comfortable. But that level of prep just doesn't exist for parents. And in my own experience, in just working with different clients and seeing it happen out in the world, pregnancy is like, everything's about the birthing person or mom, and everyone's gushing over you and what can we do to help. And then the postpartum can be such a lonely and isolating time. Most people don't know what's typical, what's not typical. Like Nicole mentioned too, experiencing postpartum depression with your third child. So it looks different throughout all pregnancies and postpartum experiences. So just not knowing, how to ask for help, how to talk about anything that ranges from being typical to being clinically significant, and anything in between. So having the personal experiences that I had with the professional background that I already had as a psychologist, I took more coursework, got certified in perinatal mental health, just thinking, with being a psychologist myself and not knowing all of these things about the perinatal realm, I wanted to be able to use what I had to help other people in this situation.
And I'm wondering if you could just share a bit more with us on the types of things that you can get help for on the hotline, because so many mothers don't quite know what's normal and what's not.
You can call truly for anything that relates to emotional support, even if you're not quite sure what it is. Maybe you heard a term and you're wondering, does this apply to me? This is how I'm feeling. Does it fit into some category that I've heard about? Or maybe you're calling and you're like, I know that I don't feel right and I don't feel like myself, but I'm not sure where to start. The hotline can be that place to start. So it's a way to call and speak with a counselor and just talk about what's going on, talk through what you're experiencing to figure out what are your next right steps. The counselors will meet you where you're at, connect with you, and most importantly, collaborate with you on what your next best steps are. They can be really that bridge from where you're at right now to what's the next step on my journey to feeling like myself again.
And Nicole, I'd like to ask you the same question. What types of things can the hotline help with? And if you wouldn't mind sharing some success stories. I know that this is confidential and personal information is never shared, but if you can speak generally about some of the conversations or perhaps one that stands out to you where someone received support that they didn't think they could get just by simply calling the phone number.
I like to think that any person who picks up a phone and calls or texts a hotline and shares what may be the hardest experience that they've ever gone through, that's a success in and of itself, that it takes so much courage just to pick up a phone and do that, just to ask the questions. But to that point, we have success stories every day. Ellen mentioned some of the scenarios. I can think of just really simply the moms who are calling in with symptoms that they're experiencing that they don't even know that there's a name for, or that it's something that they can get help for. So it may be depression and feelings of sadness that's so significant that they may not feel like they can get out of bed anymore, or they feel like they're not being a good parent. They just want to be a better parent. Their anxiety level could be extremely high over things months after they've had their baby, and they don't understand why they're so worried anymore. Moms that might be experiencing what we would call scary thoughts about their babies or themselves and their babies, and they feel terrible about these thoughts and don't feel like they could share them with anyone. But yet they call the hotline because they know it's confidential, that they can share it with us. So they are relieved that when reporting these symptoms that they're describing, if we can educate them to understand that these are real conditions that are being experienced by women during pregnancy and after pregnancy, that there's treatment for, that there's no need to go through them alone, and that there are steps and resources that you can take to get you feeling back to like yourself. So there's so many scenarios that I can think of where we have been able to help moms, birthing persons. I also like to think of the extended family, if you will, family and loved ones and friends that we are able to help. And one story for me that comes to mind is a grandfather who reached out. He was caring for his grandbaby because his daughter was experiencing depression, and he didn't know how to help her. And he was caring for the baby by himself. He was so grateful to have a hotline to reach out to speak to someone who could understand what he was saying, who could get his daughter some help, and who also could get him some help. So it is boundless. The hotline is here. Just reach out if you're connected to anyone that has pregnant, had a baby, need assistance in any way where we can provide some emotional support. We are here for it.
Nicole, that is a really important point, that this isn't just for mothers. It could be that concerned grandfather. It could be your partner. It could be the oldest child in the family. Anyone is welcome to call. And you're not limited to just one phone call, correct?
That is correct. We often encourage callers and texters to reach out to our hotline as many times as they need to for emotional support. Our overall goal is to connect people to long-term resources that can support them on a journey to recovery, if that is what they need. But we all know that parenting is just hard. Being a mom is hard, and we all just have those moments where everything just crashes and you just need that support right there in the moment. We are there for that. I often tell callers, this is not a one and done. You can reach out to us again 24/7, and we can be reached at 1-833-852-6262, or the number, if you can remember it this way, 1-833-TLC-MAMA. And we're always going to give you a message that aligns with that of Postpartum Support International. When you reach out to us, we want you to know that you are not alone. We want you to know that you are not to blame for whatever your situation is. And we also want you to know that with the right supports, you will get better if you stay on your journey, and we are here to support you on that journey 1000%.
Nicole and Ellen, thank you so much for your words of inspiration and encouragement. I hope this is helpful to our viewers. And we thank you for your time. And we thank you for watching this and for joining us for the first video in our series. Thanks so much.